Hey sis, and welcome to the Beauty System Podcast, where we talk about the science behind beauty. We're your hosts, Maya Elaine
and Maya Nicole,
and we will dissect important topics for women of color regarding science, technology, engineering, and math or STEM concepts to make them more accessible and relatable to your everyday life. Thank you for joining, guys. If you're listening on YouTube or any other podcast platform, please like, share, follow us. Do all the things that you normally do for podcast platforms so that everybody can get this knowledge about the science behind beauty. On today's episode, we will be talking about the conversation on clean. So that is, what is clean? Is it that squeaky clean feeling that you get going through your hair? Is it different for different hair textures? What does clean really mean? And today, in order to help us have that discussion, we have a professional, Iyonna Woods, here with us.
Iyonna Woods is a retired healthcare professional turned entrepreneur. She is a certified laboratory scientist and a member of the Society of Cosmetic Chemists. She is known as a scientist who cares and is the owner of Fancy Free Skin and Hair, where her focus is on creating high-quality, safe products that are plant-based. Iyonna and the Fancy Factory are based in Baltimore, Maryland. Welcome, Iyonna, to the Beauty System Podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
We're so excited to have this conversation. So what we like to do just before we get into the nitty gritty, because sometimes science can be a little bit like lofty for people. We want to make things like, down to earth so people understand like we're all humans too. Scientists are humans too. So if you could just... Yeah. So we like to do like a fun icebreaker question. We call it a human verification. This time it's in the style of a this or that. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So our this or that for today is, do you prefer to see or use the flexi rod look or the twist out, like twisting your hair and then untwisting it look?
Neither.
Neither. That's okay.
Neither. When I was a loose, obviously I'm a lock now.
Yeah.
But when I was loose, I would prefer twist because, baby, I would make a twist that lasts 3-4 weeks, okay? I do the twist, and I'm like, oh, just leave the twist in, like locks,
yes,
my style
exactly.
kind of like away. Then I take the twist out, and it's, flat, and then it gets bigger, and then when it starts getting a little dry, I'm like, okay, getting close to wash day.
Right.
Not yet.
Not
Let
yet.
me twist the side, got a full hug, got a point. Like, you can make a twist that lasts forever, baby.
Forever.
The flexi rods, I don't know about all that.
No, my hair is poofed on day 2. It's gone.
I'm a flexi rod girl. I'm not going to lie. I am a flexi rod girl. I don't like... it's too much for me. I feel like it's just a little bit more effort to do a twist out that I'm not committed to doing.
Really?
Just a little bit more that I'm barely doing my natural hair anyway. So
I'm sold on the lasting longer effect.
That's
so
true.
I'll do the work. Okay. Well, thank you so much for answering our human verification question. Now that we are more familiar with you, and I guess we're more familiar with you, we want to start our conversation on clean. So one of our goals here at the Beauty System is not only to educate our guests on, like science, technology, engineering, and math concepts, but we also want to let them know what the possibilities are out there for STEM careers. So what does it mean to be a lab scientist, and what is the Society of Cosmetic Chemists?
So I'm a certified medical laboratory scientist, and what we learn when I was in school for that, what we learned is a lot of laboratory techniques, a lot of how to test. You get grilled on integrity, so basically not running the test to bias. What does test to bias mean? You are, I worked in a blood bank for 15 years. I was a manager of a blood bank for 7 years. And so in your mind, when the tests are looking a certain way, in your mind, you're like, oh, it's going to be X result. But you still have to make sure that you're testing so that when the true result comes, that you're not like, this got to be wrong because I just knew it was X. No. It is Z. The answer is Z. So you got to go with that. And so like not having a bias in testing really applies to what I do now with formulating and manufacturing products. Is like, in my mind, I kind of think that a certain formula is going to work, or a certain ingredient is going to work, give me the end results of the product that I just created, and it doesn't. And I trash a lot. It's like, okay, that's trash. Or I screw up a batch of product, and there's no way to save it, or something falls on the floor. It's trash, and I think a lot of the recalls that we have are because we don't have people in these manufacturing facilities who have that level of integrity, or are not trained properly in laboratory technique or current good manufacturing processes. And that is what the federal government, the FDA, all these accrediting agencies hold hospitals to, those standards. And so I learned all of those things in becoming a laboratory scientist. Learned all of the clinical testing methodology. So, what is a laboratory scientist? You go to the hospital, you send a sample. Is it pee? Is it, is it blood? Is it sputum? And you send it to this magical place called the lab.
Yeah.
Well, the people doing the testing are medical laboratory scientists, certified medical laboratory scientists. It's not just, somebody waving a wand over it and you magically have results. And so we're behind the scenes, and that's more in line with my personality, just being behind the scenes and contributing in that way and working with the hospital team. So not just, you work with the phlebotomists, you work with the nurses, you work with the doctors, because the doctors can look at you by your symptoms and say, hey, I think you have this particular, and diagnose you, but they're waiting for the lab results to confirm that diagnosis. So it really is an integral part of the healthcare team. And I became a specialist in blood banking. And that is where I got my manufacturing background, because blood banking does require a certain level of sterile technique, and definitely manufacturing, because blood products do need to be manipulated to accommodate certain diagnoses in certain patient populations. So that is how I got my laboratory part. So, we're great with formulating, and I'm a part of the Society of Cosmetic Chemists because I'm learning, I'm learning a lot of things, and I'm as a scientist, as a healthcare professional, I'm looking at the journals, I'm looking at the research, I'm doing all those things. And so the Society of Cosmetic Chemists has allowed me to expand my network in that area of expertise. So I have friends who I can bounce ideas off of, ask questions that I could refer a business to. They can, when it's not my zone of genius, it's like, listen, sis, I want to help you create your product, but that ain't my lane. So I'm going to refer you to someone who, that's very important in business. Knowing what your zone of genius is. And, going to the conferences, staying up on the current research for cosmetics, being alerted when the FDA has made a modernization to the cosmetic regulations, which they just implemented in December. Being abreast of those things is very important to me, because I'm just used to operating under a heavily regulated, facility. So that's just how I run my business.
Well, you said a lot there. I feel like I got a lot from that, especially like when we talked about biases. I know like even in the products that we create, even though it's not to any level of products, they're not going to like hurt anybody.
Don't say that.
They're not going to hurt anybody or like, cause anyone to break out or anything like that. But even like having to check our own bias, like, oh, just because this works for me does not mean that it's going to work for everybody else. And I think that having that perspective and transferring those skills that you had from that other heavily regulated, industry is something that we definitely do transfer a lot of the skills. But I think especially when you're thinking about a population of people who traditionally, their products are kind of like just thrown together. Oh yeah, we'll just do this to it. Like the level of care that comes out is something that definitely shows. So we're excited that we have you here today. And I think you will be a really good person for us to help break down what it means to like feel the world of these products. Like for a newly natural, they go to the store, they want to clean their hair, they see a pre-poo, they see a scalp scrub, they see a rinse, they
All
see
of
they see a co-wash. Like, they're just lost and inundated with the amount of things that they have. So like, what do you actually need to have a great, healthy hair care cleansing routine?
Water.
Whoa.
I was expecting just the shampoo
You
was
need
good.
water. I think, I have, tightly coiled, highly textured, very, 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 very thick hair. And, you went through you go through the phases of, oh, you just need to co-wash. No, you need to cleanse your scalp because, I've never been like, the premise of my product line is minimalism. So I've never been a product hoarder type of person. I've never used like 8-9 products in my hair to style my hair when I was a loose natural. I'm still, obviously I don't have relaxer now. I have locks. But, with the tightly coiled hair, when it's time to wash, you feel your hair drying out. When it's time to trim, you could tell that it's time to trim. And so, you could tell when you have buildup on your scalp and you need to get the buildup off. You need off of your scalp and off of your hair so that when you go to apply products, the products have something to work with. They're not fighting against all the things that are still left on your strands of hair. And so if you're the type of person that does not use a lot of product, then a co-wash might work for you, but you still need, like once a week or twice a week, you co-wash, but at least once every 3 or 4 weeks, you need a clarifier to get all of the product and all of the gunk off of your scalp. A pre-poo, I don't know. As a former, I used to work in a salon. I started doing natural hair with my younger sisters who are 13 years younger than I am when they started getting a little bit of hair. So I just started braiding their hair. And then that translated into me doing everybody's hair in high school. And then me being the girl in the dorm room doing everybody's hair and styling natural hair in a salon. It translated. And, my mom was a cosmetologist. So I actually apprenticed under my mom. And what I found is Black women in general about their hair are the reason I don't work in a salon. But I found that Black women want to hold on to raggedy ends. Or they want to hold on to the damage because of the length.
I am she.
And so what I found is those pre-poos are like, okay, well, put that on your ends to save your ends. There's no way to repair damaged hair. There's no way.
Good.
You can make it look like it's not damaged, but it's not repairing it. You have to cut the damage off.
Okay. Wow.
And when you cut off, just like when you pruning a bush or pruning a tree or pruning your plants, when you cut that damage off, you will see that your hair will flourish.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm not really like a fan of pre-poos. Again, I'm not a fan of a whole bunch of different products. You can co-wash. If you have a conditioner that you like, you can use that as a co-wash. You could do a mask or something like that. I had something that I created called a clay wash that actually cleanses the scalp and moisturizes it without the lather. But every now and then you still need to do a clarifying wash.
Right.
So it can be confusing, but also if you are newly natural. So if you have done the big chop or you've done, you've transitioned, it could be difficult to figure out what to do with your hair. Everybody's hair has something different going on. And so it is trial and error. It is really trial and error because I don't know about you guys, but I probably have like 4 or 5 different textures of hair in my head.
I do. Yeah, she says that all the time. There's so many different textures.
You have different curl patterns, different levels of thickness. Like you have all of that. And it's a lot of things that go into like, what's your routine?
Yeah.
Are you active? Do you sweat a lot? Do you work out every day? Are you eating? Are you drinking your water? Are you taking your vitamins? Are you sleeping? Are you stressed out? All of those things show up on your hair and skin. And so it's not just about product. It's also your lifestyle and your nutrient intake and how you're hydrating the inside of your body as well as outside. But most importantly, if your hair is feeling dry, put some water on it and seal it in.
Water will do it.
Yeah, water. You need water. You need water.
Yeah. So me personally, when I wash my hair, one of the things that I've had issues with is how often am I supposed to be washing my hair? And I think a lot of what you said applies. It is, based on your type of hair. But what are some of the signs that you can look out for to say, okay, this is not a time where I need to like co-wash or like baby it. Like I need to cleanse my scalp specifically.
If you're seeing flakes, just dry looks, if you're seeing flakes, it's time to cleanse that scalp. It's time to get some water. If your hair is feeling dry, like I said, on the ends, it's time to cleanse. For some people, like I'm talking about tightly coiled hair, when your hair starts feeling dry, it's time to wash it. For people who have looser curl patterns, if your hair starts feeling greasy or heavy, it's time to wash your hair. And that can vary from person to person. I typically, because of my lifestyle, when I was loose natural, I washed my hair probably every 2 weeks. But when I was stretching those twist outs, making those twist outs last, I would take some witch hazel or sea breeze on a cotton swab and take that to my scalp just to cleanse my scalp if I wasn't quite ready to go through the whole wash day routine, which is definitely can take the wind out of your sail.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes so much sense because I think I like to cleanse my hair. I like for it to feel clean, but I don't want to get to the point where like I'm stripping it of everything all the time. It's clear that every day is not it for me. And I think I know a lot of people who wash their hair every day that have textured hair to see if like, oh, well, is it because I'm not washing it enough or is it because I let it coil too much? And I think for me personally, it felt like that was heading in the wrong direction. So I just wanted to like recorrect and make sure that I'm, listening to the right parts of my hair and not just trying to go for the length and like what other people are doing.
So when you say, tightly coiled, some people who have tightly coiled hair who are washing their hair every day. Are they washing it, or just wetting it? Because there's I can understand wetting it every day if you're washing it every day.
Yeah, so
I've never heard of that. Who has time for that?
So I've had people who have gone natural recently, used to have a perm. So, weren't really sure what to do. But the way it was explained to me was that they felt like their hair was more dirty than it was because they are not combing it every day and they're not like getting in there and doing things every day to where they can see and feel that see that it's clean. So the next step was either like go the path of trying to wash it or, just making sure, like you said, just putting water in it. So that way, at least I know, like I ran water through my hair, I'm good.
And I know, Iyonna, one of the things that I know when I was growing up, I always was kind of confused with because I grew up in a predominantly white like area in school, and the girls would always wash their hair every day. And like having to understand like, okay, what is that? That doesn't really, I don't really see that manifest in my life. How does that translate for me? So like what is there like a real difference with, and what is like the difference in terms of textures and how often the hair needs to be washed? Like, is there a distinction or is it the same amount of time relatively?
I think that, like I was saying, like straighter, looser curl patterns, their hair tends to be weighed down by sebums or the oils that our scalp naturally emits. Okay. Their hair is weighed down by it. Where with tightly coiled hair, we thrive on that. And so our hair isn't weighed down by it. And actually, if we aren't sealing oils into our hair, we're not drinking enough water, then washing your hair every day basically is going to wash away any kind of oils that your your scalp has naturally emitted. And so, you know, it's straighter hair, wash the hair more often. Curlier hair, it's up to you. It's up to your lifestyle. It's up to how you've styled your hair. But really keeping the scalp clean is going to be most important, and paying attention to your hair. Like I said, some people, you know, if you're wearing a protective style, if your hair is in braids or something like that, you only really need to get the scalp.
Exactly.
Because the hair is kind of protected. But if your hair is out, you know, then you're going to pay attention to the fairy knots at the end, or just how it feels when you touch it. But once a week, once every 2 weeks, I think is sufficient to cleanse the hair. If you're using a lot of product, you know, you're going to do a clarifying wash more often than if you're not using a lot of product. So it just depends really on your lifestyle and how you prefer to style your hair.
I think that's good. I think that clarifies that, especially for me. And I know you talk about like product use, and I know for you at Fancy Free, you make sure that your products are free from harmful chemicals. Can we talk a little bit about those like harmful ingredients? Like what should we be looking out for on the back of these hair and skin ingredient lists? Because I just don't know at this point.
Or like what are some of the things that we may not have heard of before?
It's really difficult to, it's so many different ingredients. There's so many ways that you can substitute. There's so many different ways that you can get the same effect from different ingredients. Okay. So I recommend an app called Yuka, Yuka. And you can scan barcodes, and most major distributors, major retailers have their products listed on Yuka, and it will list what's bad and what you should pay attention to. Okay. Because the FDA does not really enforce a lot of regulations on cosmetics.
Did you know that?
You know, it's just a lot of trash and products that are made in the US.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I did not know that it wasn't as strictly enforced as I think it's projected that these organizations are here to do that, like not just create the regulations, but enforce the regulations. So I think it's good to hear.
Food and drugs. Yeah, food and drugs are the FDA's focus. They have guidelines for cosmetics, but if you're a smaller business, or if you decide just not to register with the FDA, if you're not registered, they don't know you exist, and there's nothing they can do to come after you unless there's a big problem. So you release a product and everybody's arm is falling off. You know, you're going to get reported and the FDA is coming looking for you, but they're not doing any. Oh, I've seen some things, child. I've seen some things. In the hospital, I've seen some things.
Oh,
so I know they're not coming for nobody in cosmetics. I'm going to just leave it there.
Okay.
They're not coming for you in no cosmetics. So like, you're supposed to register your manufacturing facility with the FDA, but they don't, honestly, they released these modernized regulations, but they said we didn't get any funding to enforce it. So it's kind of like,
wow. Okay.
That's how these companies are doing what they're doing whatever. But, I recommend Yuka. And I typically avoid ingredients that are banned in Canada and Europe.
Ooh, good tip.
A big one that I'm fighting with, and when I say fighting, it's because I do product development for other brands. Okay. And I do manufacturing for other brands. And when they are, we're developing a product from scratch and they're doing their market research, I'm looking at the ingredients, right? And it's like, okay, one of the big ones is phenoxyethanol, which is a preservative, which is not supposed to be so bad if your exposure level is, I think it's less than 0.1%, right? The problem is phenoxyethanol is in everything. So your exposure level is definitely above 0.1%.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like, okay. Another one that I fight with is polysorbate 20, which
I've seen that
by itself, which is an emulsifier. So an emulsifier is an agent that's going to keep your oil and water, your oil base and your water base mixed together, and so it doesn't separate. And you see that a lot in like sprays and mist because it allows the oil to stay in the liquid phase. We're not talking about lotions.
Yeah.
By itself is okay, but it can possibly be contaminated in the manufacturing facility, and leftover the contaminants can affect your reproductive organs. But you wouldn't know that.
No, we don't know.
Where you can have other. Yeah. You have, some of these, that's why you would like to use an app like Yuka that would expose, because there's so many different ingredients.
Yeah.
And, we just talked about this huge class action lawsuit for women who have gotten relaxers and now are having reproductive issues because they knew that these products were endocrine disruptors causing reproductive cancers, and they were still marketing it to us. If you when I started doing my research and I'm looking at all these ingredients and I'm looking okay, well, let me look at the data. Cause science nerds, we need to see the data.
Yeah. We need to see numbers. Yeah.
And the numbers say that non-African American women are exposed to 186 potentially toxic chemicals per day just from their personal care products. The number is higher for African American women. And if you compare the ingredients of a product that's marketed to white women compared to, or women with, straighter hair textures compared to products that are marketed to African American women, you will see how trash the ingredients are. It's almost like, I hate to be everything is racist, but everything is racist. They're like, just put the trash in just send the crack to the Black neighborhoods. Just put the trash in the stuff that we're giving to the Black women, because we're gonna buy it. Because the sad part about it is we spend 9 times more on beauty products than any other ethnicity in this country.
Yep.
So it's tough. And I think, the tough part for manufacturers is if you are not on top of the research, if you are not on top of the data, if you are not on top of the studies, you're not going to change your formula when you realize that a study comes out that says that this is bad.
Right.
Just like antiperspirant, that's the biggest one. Whoa. Study after study after study after study after study after study says that aluminum in antiperspirant is directly linked to causing breast cancer. Directly linked. You know why? Because your skin is your largest organ. So anything you put on your skin can be absorbed in your skin and into your bloodstream. That is how you can use a pain patch or a birth control patch or nicotine patch, because the medicine is being absorbed through your skin. The same thing applies to hair and skin products. Some molecules are too big to cross the barrier, but aluminum, the whole premise about antiperspirant is it blocks the pores in your underarms to prevent the sweat from coming out. The first issue with that is when you stop when you prevent one of the body's natural functions, it's going to wreak havoc. And so usually the trickle down effect of antiperspirant is, okay, you're not sweating, but now you stink because the toxins that are supposed to be released
are in the blood.
When you sweat are no longer being released. Some people will sweat in other areas of their bodies, others won't. So you have these toxins that are kind of just hanging out and you're like, oh God, I'm funky. So you think you need more aluminum in your deodorant. And it's a trickle down effect. Meanwhile, the aluminum goes into your bloodstream and your lymph nodes are right here. And it mimics a hormone, a cell growth hormone. And what is cancer? the overgrowth of cells, unregulated growth of cells. And so this aluminum is mimicking the hormone right here by your breasts, and it's causing unregulated cell growth in your breast tissue. The other part of aluminum is if you have kidney issues, your body cannot remove that aluminum from it. And then the aluminum ends up in your brain. And that's why you have people with causing Alzheimer's disease. And if you look at antiperspirants, it'll say if you have kidney disease, you do not need to use antiperspirant. Wow. And although the studies show this, you can go in any Walmart, any store that sells deodorant, and antiperspirant is going to be right there.
I'm just going to throw out everything.
With aluminum in it.
I'm throwing out everything.
So
I want to throw away all my products now.
And I'm any product that I create, I'm going to use it on myself first. So I have a testimony for myself and my family. And, I have an old video where we had a testimony where I was just like, my husband used to call me pheromone, right? Like pheromones, like I smell like pheromones. Mm-hmm. And not that I stunk, but, he would be like, you had a long day today, didn't you? Right?
No.
Okay. Child, you got to get you a husband bestie that will tell you the truth, right? Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like I think I was pregnant, and I kind of knew that aluminum was bad for you, but it's like, whatever. And I started using Donna Karen's Cashmere Mist deodorant, and that worked for me. But over the 3 or 4 years that I had started using it, the price went from $16 for a 2-ounce jar to $28 to a 2-ounce jar. And I was like, oh no, I can't keep doing this. I'm pregnant. I'm like, I probably shouldn't be using this anyway. So I started using aluminum-free deodorants, just deodorants. And it's like, okay, cool, I can do this. And what I noticed was I sweat, but I didn't stink. Mm-hmm. Huh. I no longer had that pheromone smell. And, when you're pregnant, it can vary from time to time because of your hormones. And I can smell when I've been stressed out. Mm. And once the stress phase goes away, or whatever hormone, whatever part of my menstrual cycle I'm on, once that goes away, the smell goes away. Mm-hmm. So your body will naturally rid itself of toxins. And if you have a bad body odor, it's more a reflection of what's going inside your body, inside your body, than you need stronger deodorant.
Wow.
So that's my deodorant testimony on how the U.S. is trash.
You gave us a lot.
Cosmetics and personal care.
You really did give us a lot. And I honestly feel like we've touched a lot on natural ingredients and how they're better for you. But are there some natural ingredients that are, are all of them good for you? Because I feel like sometimes people are labeling, I can use this, but you're using it in an incorrect way. Does that ever happen or come up? Or generally, if it's safe to eat, it's safe to use?
Typically, outside of emulsifiers and preservatives, and even some preservatives, I try to stay within, if I can't eat it, I can't use it. Or if it's not directly from a plant, so essential oils and things like that. Mm-hmm. What I've realized is that people, if you go into any store and things will be marketed to natural hair people, or it will say such and such naturals, it's really not natural. It's just the marketing. So you really have to read the label. But what I also realize is people really don't care about how natural it is. They care that it's going to work. Yeah. To answer your question, everything within moderation. Mm-hmm. So, even water if you drink too much water, you can drown yourself. Mm-hmm. So, you have to pay attention to the percentages of how you're using certain ingredients that, if you use too much tea tree oil, that's going to dry you out. You know what I mean? Tea tree oil is good, but at a certain percentage in your formula. So just paying attention to how much you're using as far as when you're formulating your products, the percentages, if it's irritating your eyes, or if it can be an irritant to flare up your eczema. or, you hear people say, oh, I just put a little bit of lime juice. That could break somebody out. It just depends on you person, like the person who's using it. For me, I can pretty much put anything on my skin and hair and be okay. Other people, you got one drop of coconut oil in it, all hell is going to break loose. So, I do stick to the, if I can't eat it, I'm not putting it on my hair and skin within reason, because it's difficult to formulate certain products that look a certain way on a shelf. Without using, emulsifiers and things like that. And there are some natural plant-based emulsifiers, but sometimes those aren't going to work depending on the formula. I'm laughing to myself because I have a client who asked for a certain product and their benchmark product is like, something that we all know is trash, right? And so I formulate the product and the function. I'm not going to say the name of the company. I'm not going to say the name of the product. Everybody uses it, but we all know that the ingredients are trash, right? And so that's their benchmark product. So they say, I want my product to function like this, but I don't want the trash in it. So that's what I do, right? I create.
Got it.
I create from scratch, literally from scratch. I'm in here making aloe vera gel and flaxseed gel, and I'm, everything's from scratch. But they want their product to look like the product that's trash, right? So yes, they say, I want it to be, and I'm like, okay, well, if I'm doing all this natural stuff, it's not going to look like that. Just tell me how you feel. That's what you want it to look like. I can create it to look like that and have it not as trash ingredients, but we can't have it both ways,
Right.
So, it's like we are accustomed to things looking a certain way. That's why our food is GMO, because everybody wants bright red apples and perfectly round oranges. But, that's what we are just basically, our mind is accustomed to things looking a certain way. And so when things are natural, they separate on the shelf and they, you got to store in the refrigerator. People ain't interested in that.
Right.
Now, I want to create, I want it to be all perfect and all, fully natural, but I also want to stay in business. And how do I stay in business? I give my customers what they want.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
It's a balance for sure.
So before we close out, we want to do like a quick little burst of good, bad, it depends. This is where we shout out a few things. You let us know if it's good, it's bad, or it depends. And I think this will flow. I mean, we can guess some of the answers from the conversation we just had, but we still want to get your perspective on it. So I'll start with sulfates.
Depends.
Okay. Hot take.
Because
according to mainstream, it's a no on sulfates. Yeah. They're canceled.
But who is mainstream?
Yeah,
the cosmetologists. Cosmetologists are using the sulfates, baby, because you need to get all that gunk out your hair. So when you leave the salon, your hair is flowing, so that product can take effect. So you need the sulfates. But when you have to make sure you're using a sulfate that has, like, if your shampoo has a sulfate in it for lather, I always look for a polyquaternium. Polyquaterniums are, they're synthetic, but they do still allow you to have the slip in your hair or skin or whatever you're using the sulfates on. But a lot of clarifying shampoos are going to have sulfates and they're effective. And sometimes you do need it. Not, for curly hair, not all the time, but you do need to clarify.
Okay. What about parabens?
Bad
all the time. Okay. Preservatives?
Bad all the time. Preservatives, you need preservative. If your product has water in it, you need a preservative unless you want to be rubbing mold and stuff on your face. It's going to grow. If a product has water in it, it's going to grow stuff.
Right.
Unless you have a preservative in it to prevent the growth of mold in your water-based product.
When we see preservative, we just need to make sure that it's a natural product
in the shelf.
Okay. So it's not
so
paraben,
parabens or any formaldehyde releasing preservatives are bad.
Got it.
Formaldehyde, I'm just thinking from a medical standpoint, When I would go into pathology, you have all of these tissues and organs stored in formaldehyde.
Yeah.
So when they're using formaldehyde or a paraben or any formaldehyde releasing preservative, that is how it's preventing the bacteria or mold from growing in the product. But do you want to put that on your skin?
No,
not at all.
No, thank you.
No. So that is why parabens or any formaldehyde releasing preservative is bad. I typically stay within like food preservatives. So what a potassium sorbate is a big one that I use in my products. They also use it in wine making and things like that. But formaldehyde releasing preservatives are a big no.
Okay. Only two more. The first one is mineral oils.
Depends.
Okay. It depends. And then the last one is Ayurvedic herbs.
Depends.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Herbs are good, but you have to look at the molecules. Like, what are you trying to accomplish with them? Are the molecules really big? Is it even effective? It just depends on the product and how it's marketed and how it's being used and how the instructions on the product are listed. Mineral oil is not bad. Most of our medical products have petroleum or Vaseline in it, and mineral oil is a derivative of petroleum. If you're using it in your hair, I think that mineral it's going to seal everything in. So you have to make sure that the hair is actually damp so that the mineral oil can seal in whatever, what the moisture that is covering. Mineral oil gets a bad name, but I mean, to be quite honest, before my son was little, to slap a little bit of Vaseline in his hair is a great clumping agent. So if you have curly hair, mineral oil and Vaseline is going to clump those curls together and easy breezy. Wow. It gets a bad rap, but it's not. If you look at the research, it's just the source that people are kind of talking about. But you mad about mineral oil, but you're going to put gas and you fill your tank up. What's the difference?
Yeah. Nope, that's a good point. Okay, well, we have had a great discussion today, and we really thank you for joining us, Iyonna. We've learned a lot. I'm going to go throw away some products and go to the store and restart.
Just everything.
Do this immediately.
I'm sorry, friends.
No. Thank you. We are thanking you. This is. I would rather be healthy than sad about a product that I'm not tied to. So yeah, we really appreciate you. I think our listeners really care about doing better for themselves. So a lot of the questions that we get just on a hair care basis or a skincare basis are about like, what can I do better? What should I actually be doing? So I think everything you said today kind of gives them a little, one step ahead. Don't even get started with X, Y, and Z because it's not good for you. So yeah, we really thank you for being here. Can you let everyone know where they can follow you or find your products?
Thank you. I'm really excited about this talk. And I was glad to help. Happy to help. Always happy to help as a healthcare professional. You can find me on all platforms, Fancy Free Hair and Skin. And my website is fancyfreehairandskin.com. The A&D is spelled out. And that's my full suite of products and services that we offer, including the product development and private label manufacturing.
Wow. Well, this is great. We'll make sure to include all that information also in the show notes so everyone can check that out. But thank you again, everyone, for listening to us today. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notification, do all those things, that you're supposed to do when you're supporting people so that other people can get more information about the podcast, get the information about the science behind beauty. And you can follow us on Instagram at The Beauty System, written out. And we'll see you next time. Bye, sis.
Bye.
All right. Bye.